how Russia and Ukraine conflict might hit global markets. So, Siddharth, this is all you.
Yeah, so let's just assume that Russia does it, okay? Let's just first of all, for the sake of this news item, let's assume Russia
Huh?
goes for it. है ना?
Yeah, yeah.
If that happens,
Huh?
there are at least 5 to 6 places where things will get insanely disrupted, okay? And the disruptions will be felt across global markets because of these 5 to 6 places. Now I'll tell you what these 5 to 6 places are. First of all, safe havens, tax havens. Okay. Now most investors rush back uh, whenever a major risk event happens. Most investors rush back to bonds, right? Because they are the safest assets. And this time also, if a Russian invasion happens, inflation will hit multi-decade heights, interest rates will rise, and people will flock towards bonds. 10-year US 10-year 2%, German 10 years 0%. So in forex markets, Swiss euro France exchange rate is seen as the biggest indicator of geopolitical risk in the eurozone, right? Because the Swiss currency has been long viewed by investors as a very safe haven. This Switzerland currency, and it has hit its strongest level since May 2015 in late January this year. So all these safe havens will get affected, whether it is the Swiss currency, the exchange rates, or gold also, right? Or bonds. So all safe investments will get more and more investments. All riskier investments, वहां से पैसा निकल के सेफ इन्वेस्टमेंट्स में जाएगा, गोल्ड में पैसा जाएगा, बॉन्ड्स में जाएगा, और स्विस करेंसी इस इन सब में जाएगा. ठीक है. सेकेंडली, ग्रेन्स, स्पेशली वीट. जो ब्लैक सी है ना, रशिया और यूक्रेन का जो बॉर्डर है, वहां से, उस रीजन से ज़्यादातर यूक्रेन, रशिया, कजाकिस्तान और रोमानिया, ये चार मेजर एक्सपोर्टर है. और ये सब लोग अपना ग्रेन ब्लैक सी के पोर्ट से एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं. तो बिकॉज ऑफ दिस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, ये जो ब्लैक सी का शिपिंग रूट है, ये डिसरप्ट हो सकता है ना. यूक्रेन इज दिस ईयर प्रोजेक्टेड टू बी थर्ड लार्जेस्ट एक्सपोर्टर ऑफ कॉर्न एंड फोर्थ लार्जेस्ट एक्सपोर्टर ऑफ व्हीट. ऑल ऑफ दैट विल गेट डिसरप्टेड. तो टॉप 3 जो प्रोड्यूसर्स है, या टॉप 5 6 जो प्रोड्यूसर्स है, उन सब में डिस्ट्रीब्यूट हो जाएगा यूक्रेन का जो ग्रेन सप्लाई था, बिकॉज यूक्रेन ऑब्वियसली विल नॉट बी एक्सपोर्टिंग एटलीस्ट दिस ईयर. Thirdly, natural gas and oil. Now, energy markets are to be hit if tensions turn into conflicts. Like Europe relies on Russia for around 35% of its natural gas, and natural gas is huge in Europe. Okay, it's not as big in India or in Asia, but in Europe and developed countries, it's huge. Most of it comes through pipelines across Belarus and
और
Poland
उनको उनको आई थिंक उनका टेम्परेचर भी इतना लो होता है. नेचुरल गैस इज व्हाट दे यूज टू हीट अप स्टफ.
to heat up a lot of their homes and a lot of other things as well. So it's a mainstay of their energy needs, है ना. And ब- अब अगर रशिया इन्वेड कर देता है यूक्रेन को, तो जो पाइपलाइन है जो रशिया से ऑल ओवर यूरोप सप्लाई करती है, दैट विल गेट डिसरप्टेड फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल. एंड इट्स एक्सपेक्टेड कि नेचुरल गैस एक्सपोर्ट्स विल बी सिग्निफिकेंटली रिड्यूस. ठीक है, क्योंकि यूक्रेन से होते हुए ही जा रहा है वो पाइपलाइन, तो सैंक्शंस तो होंगे ही. Also, oil markets will be affected because Ukraine moves Russian oil to Eastern European countries like Hungary and Czech Republic and all of that. So, if Ukraine's transit of Russian crude for the export was like, let's say, it was 12 million metric tons in 2021, है ना. तो वो अगर टेंशन्स राइज हो गए तो इंसेनली हाइक हो जाएगा. अभी $100 अ बैरल है, $150 भी नॉट सरप्राइजिंग. इट माइट go there, okay. And this will invariably affect global GDP growth to just 0.9%. This is a JP Morgan statement, है ना. तो ऑयल और नेचुरल गैस बेसिकली इंसेनली महंगा हो जाएगा. अभी $100 का क्रूड है, $150 हो जाएगा. इंडिया में तो अभी चुनाव चल रहे हैं, जब तक ठीक है, चुनाव जैसे ही खत्म होंगे ना, तो आप देखो पेट्रोल, एक वो मोहम्मद सोहेल करके एक कॉमेडियन है, वो उसका एक जोक है कि मैं कल पेट्रोल गिरवी रख के अपने माँ के गहने छुड़ा के ला रहा हूँ। तो वो सच भी हो सकता है, वो जोक भी नहीं रहेगा। Companies have a lot of exposure in Russia and their natural gas fields and oil fields, and Ukraine and their natural gas fields, right? British BP, it owns almost 20% in Rosneft, which is the largest oil exporter of Russia. Shell holds around some 28% in Russia's first LNG plant. US energy firm Exxon operates subsidiaries in Russia. Australia's banks, derived more 40% of its profit from a Russian subsidiary. So there is a lot of exposure to Russia when it comes to developed countries. None of them have left behind. Okay, whether it is the Dutch, the French, the Germans, the English, the Americans, all of them have some way or the other some exposure to Russia's oil and gas industry, you know, and whether they've given loans or bonds or whatever. Now there is a high risk, ठीक है, कि these loans will either be delayed, they'll obviously not be discontinued, but they'll be delayed, है ना? So this leaves all these guys in tandem, like in tandem, and they are just hanging up by a thin thread. कि अब होगा क्या? Nobody knows, है ना? So that is a huge risk, because in the global world we know that it's a very small world now. Boundaries have shrinked, material crosses boundaries, borders, and Russia being such a huge player, everybody has exposure to it. Developing or poor country does not matter. You some way the other you depend on Russia. If the conflict happens, then Russia will close down all of its subsidiaries or investments or loans that it has taken from others and only concentrate on its defense. So all of that will get disrupted. So you can expect a rise in commodities, a rise in oil, a rise in safe bond investments, all these things. So be wary of the conflict, keep an eye on it, and just hope it doesn't happen. Because if it does, then we are in for hyperinflation, my friends.